Welcome to the Breaking Reality Podcast, bringing news and truth to the people.
Welcome to another episode of Breaking Reality. My name is Care. If you're a prior listener, welcome back, and welcome to our new listeners. Our previous episode was extremely delayed in uploading with no editing done. Some of you may have liked the rawness. I don't know. For those of you who don't, I do apologize. But I am trying out a new setup this evening, so I hope that everything works out well for this episode. Let's go ahead and get to it. We're actually going to start off easy in this episode, beginning with Home Depot. Now, while ICE raids are taking place in their parking lots, Home Depot is now having to raise the prices of their products due to Trump's tariffs. You see, the success of Home Depot is taken as an indicator of the housing market in the United States. And up until now, they weren't wanting to speculate on their price plans, and remaining silent on the issue related to, the tariffs on the nation's economics. Unfortunately, today they had to make an announcement due to their quarterly results, and their chief financial officer, Richard McPhail, admitted that they would have to do something to mitigate or neutralize the impact of these tariffs on their imported material. Now, just under half of Home Depot stock is brought from the outside. The sort of good news is that they are going to do what they can to diversify their suppliers so no single country pays more than 10% of the goods. Unfortunately, their second quarter sales did prove worse than they expected, only coming in at 1% when they estimated 1.5. Quarterly customer satisfaction fell to 0.9%, but on the plus side, they did say that their average ticket size rose by 1.2%, and they continue to have a positive outlook for the year. So hopefully that holds up. So if any of you work in jobs such as construction or carpentry and you get your products from here, do expect an increase in prices, but hopefully it won't be extraneous on your budgets. To the Koreas. In 2018, there was a military agreement between North Korea and South Korea, which provided a brief moment of diplomacy between the two countries. Now, this agreement created buffer zones on land and sea, in addition to creating no-fly zones above the border to prevent any form of clashing between the two countries. Unfortunately, in 2024, South Korea suspended the deal because North Korea declared they would no longer abide by the agreement and began launching trash-filled balloons towards South Korea. Now, yesterday or Monday, depending upon when you're listening to this, South Korea and the US began their annual joint military exercise called Ulchi Freedom Shield, or UFS, to straighten out plans and drills pertaining to nuclear threats from North Korea. Now, North Korea ended up making a statement saying that these drills would deepen regional tensions and promised to respond to, quote, any provocation against them, unquote. UFS is the second of two large-scale exercises which are done in South Korea, and this year half of the exercises have been postponed to next month due to weather and environmental issues, not for diplomacy reasons, as many have stated, according to U.S. military officials. Now, these drills are considered to be defensive in nature, and unfortunately, North Korea sees this otherwise. They view these drills as invasion rehearsals and have used these drills as a reason for their military demonstrations and weapon testing that advances its nuclear program. In fact, last week, the North Korean defense minister called these drills a stance of, quote, military confrontation, unquote, and stated they would be ready to counteract, quote, any provocation going beyond the boundary line, unquote. North Korea's nuclear program was also accelerated by deepening their relationship with Moscow after Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, Kim Jong-un made remarks during a visit to a naval destroyer yesterday or Monday and stated that the drills were, quote, an obvious expression of their will to provoke war, unquote, and encouraged another rapid expansion in its nuclear weapons program, stating that the South Korea United States drills now supposedly contain nuclear elements within them. According to the Federation of American Scientists last year, they estimated that North Korea may have assembled enough fissile material for approximately 90 nuclear warheads, but the number is likely closer to 50. And the fact that they want to amp up their program again could possibly get them actually to that 90 number. Now, these drills are important for South Korea. However, just like everything else, Trump is using this to his political advantage, demanding higher payments for the United States troops in South Korea. If they don't, or if there isn't an agreement that can be made between the two countries, Trump is considering shifting the South Korean presence to China. Now, this could potentially cause North Korea to invade South Korea or further a war between the two. All right, so now we are returning to the states with this story, specifically Texas. So if you're on Independent Solidarity Party or the Freedom Press News Network's Blue Sky, you may have noticed something disturbing that we shared. Yesterday evening or Monday evening, Midas Touch Network reported live Democratic Representative Nicole Collier being held hostage in the Texas State Capitol building. You may remember a few weeks back that the Texas House Democrats fled the state of Texas to prevent the MAGA mid-decade gerrymandering of their state to become an authoritarian takeover by the MAGA Republicans of that state. Now, the Texas governor ended up threatening to send the FBI and have them arrested, which couldn't and didn't actually happen. Now, the majority of them did return to Texas last week, knowing this had to be confronted, and they ended up re-entering the state house. Unfortunately, they were met with extreme aggression and hostility. And part of this included the fact that Texas House Democrats were mandated to sign a permission slip before they were allowed to leave the building. Now, this permission slip, as childish as it sounds, is even further um, inflamed in the absolute ridiculousness of it, in the fact that it mandated a escort by the Department of Public Safety from the moment that they left the chamber to their home and anywhere else they may have gone back to the chamber the next day. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. This isn't an escort. This would be considered a legal stalker, okay? So Representative Nicole ended up staying the night in the House chamber because she stood up for herself and her constituents. She ended up saying to a reporter, quote, "My constituents sent me to Austin to protect their voices and rights. I refuse to sign away my dignity as a duly elected representative just so Republicans can control my movements and monitor me with police escorts. My community is majority minority, and they expect me to stand up for their representation. When I press that button to vote, I know these maps will harm my constituents. I won't just go along quietly with their intimidation or their discrimination," unquote. Jasmine Crockett, another Democratic Texas representative, said on her X account, quote, forcing elected officials to sign permission slips and take police escorts to leave. That's not procedure. That's some old Jim Crow playbook. The Texas Republicans have lost their damn minds, unquote. You know, I have come to learn that the one thing that isn't big in Texas is the dicks of the men out there who are allowing this, including the Republicans in the state house, really everywhere, but at this specific time, explicitly there. This is little dick energy here. All right, well, we do have some good news. While the MAGA world may have received their temporary distraction last weekend and last week, it didn't last long. Today, a spokesperson stated that the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform has intent to release some of the documents from the Justice Department about the Epstein case. The committee is expected to receive the documents around Friday, thanks to a subpoena earlier this month, though there does seem to have more recently come out to be some pushback on it may not actually be out by Friday like it's mandated to be, but we'll see. Now, there will be redactions made, of course. It is important to, keep the victim's identity safe. But the spokesperson goes on to further state that there will be no, quote, no negative impacts on ongoing criminal investigations, unquote, regarding the redactions. Now, personally, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this last statement, whether it provides a negative or a positive light. If something provides evidence in an ongoing trial, lawyers better be able to use it, okay? Whether it's for defense or prosecution, evidence is evidence is evidence. Plus, the subpoena requires the submission of the full unredacted files. Now, one thing I have to laugh at here is what James Comer said about this. Quote, I appreciate the Trump administration's commitment to transparency and efforts to provide the American people with information about this matter, unquote. Are you fucking kidding me? Trump's administration has been anything but transparent, especially in relation to the Epstein case. I mean, let's just go ahead and review this, okay? In the beginning, Trump states that Clinton and a member of royalty has some upcoming trouble in relation to the files. Okay, this was before his term, his presidency. Then he ends up going live during campaigning, stating that he would release the Epstein files. Then once he has become president, we have Bondi being attorney general, and she goes on live TV stating that she has stacks of files being received from the FBI. And then later on, she states that she has the files on her desk. And then later on, all of a sudden, there is no Epstein list. Okay, it's taken a subpoena from the House Oversight by the Democrats and 3 Republicans who care about what happened and wish to learn the truth. So, you know what? Screw you, Comer, you corrupt piece of shit. Okay, now the committee's ranking member, Robert Garcia, stated that while the subpoena is being followed, the fact that they are responding in batches is a form of cover up. He says, quote, releasing the Epstein files in batches just continues this White House cover-up. The American people will not accept anything short of the full unredacted Epstein files, unquote. Now, maybe it's a technicality, but I don't fully support what he said. I feel like the committee should receive the full and unredacted files. However, those that are released to the public, to the people, should be redacted, right? Like I said earlier, I agree with the release of the Epstein files and being able to protect the identity of the victims, but absolutely not to the offenders. In our last article for tonight, we're going to jump to the the relationship between Mexico and the United States. So yesterday or Monday, the DEA unveiled a initiative called Project Protero, where they touted it as an effort to, quote, strengthen collaboration between the United States and Mexico, unquote. The DEA described its partnership with Mexico as, quote, a multi-week training and collaboration program, unquote, that would bring Mexican investigators together with U.S. enforcement officials at the intelligence site on the southwest border. Only, according to Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, she denies this, saying, quote, there is no agreement with the DEA. The DEA puts out the statement based on what we don't know. We have not reached any agreement. None of the security institutions have with the DEA, unquote. So while she states that this agreement doesn't happen, she doesn't stop there. She continues by criticizing the DEA and states that they need to follow the established protocol for establishing such joint announcements, right? So she called them out on them not following proper protocol. She then emphasized that Mexico would release their own such type of announcement uh, for her country, and further continues stating that any unauthorized action on Mexican territory would be considered a violation of her country's sovereignty. Now, she did point out, however, that her government was actively working or is actively working with the Trump administration to cement a border security agreement that is based on mutual acknowledgments of sovereignty and respectful coordination. Okay, so there is an agreement between US and Mexico to work with each other on border security. However, it is by no means what the DEA is attempting to spread. And this doesn't surprise me considering how much the MAGA administration spread lies to make them and their people look better and in the right. I'm very much proud of Scheinbaum for pushing back, criticizing, and correcting the DEA officials.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this episode, the host, or the podcast, don't hesitate to reach out at breakingreality@mail.com.